Climb aboard the NFL Express with Charles Barr and John Chapman, your one stop for all 32 NFL teams and news from around the league.
NFL Express, we the best ones out. What's going on?
Not much, man. I feel like you have a gift at intros. It doesn't matter how many times we do them. They're going to be a little bit different, and I appreciate that.
Unique New York. We didn't restart our podcast 3 or 4 times or anything like that. Hashtag technical difficulties. All right, so we're going to keep in line with something we've been doing, which is college stories. And I have what I think to be a great college story that's hilarious.
You are full of them, my friend.
So this one's kind of legendary. Let me back up for a second. Let me set the stage. So there, in our college, we went to a conservative Christian college. So let me just start there.
Yeah, don't do the same thing we did.
Yeah, don't do that. In Bethany, Oklahoma. At this college, there was a particular guy who was in charge of overseeing the dorm. And he was a jackass of pretty epic proportions. Matter of fact, because people had this like weird image of me in college. I don't know, because I'm like partially Mexican. I got like some pretty funny stereotypes pointed at me. And the first thing that this guy did was come to my room and tell me, I know about you, and I'm going to be smelling your room for weed all the time. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. So let's just go ahead and start with that. I have a really bad relationship with the guy in charge of the dorm. Now, you're not even going to be able to make the connection to this till later on. So essentially what happens is, I drive down to my girlfriend who lives in Austin without my parents' knowledge. Now, you might be saying, but Charles, you're at college, you're a fully grown man. Here's the thing.
Not a man at that point, not even close.
Not even close, but got a military dad. Likes to keep real close tabs on wherever I am, okay? He's watching my 6. What happened to me is that somebody put sand in my gas tank, and I ended up breaking down somewhere around south of Dallas on my way there. So having to end up getting towed all the way down, I want to say it was a big bill, down to Austin. And then on top of that, I don't have the money to fix everything, so I got to call my dad for some help. Nonetheless, to say he's pissed off. He's really pissed off about this. So get the car fixed, drive back up to Oklahoma, see my dad. I believe this is one of the times that he took me to PT in the morning as punishment in college. He's like, wake up, we're going to PT. I'm like, dang it. And then he had this female she wasn't an officer, this female drill sergeant just like chew me out. It was pretty awesome.
I know, that would have kind of done it for me, I think.
I think so. But that's actually, in retrospect, cool move, Dad. Pretty cool move on your part. So Dad says, no more car for you. Taking the car away. Awesome.
It was a cool car, though. Like, side caveat here.
It wasn't.
Yes, it was.
1996 Geo Prism. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. That's how they felt like Jules slept in the back of one of those until she made it. But, so, we're driving up, getting the chew out, and it's like butt crack early dawn. 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, something like that. So we get to the dorm. My dad walks me down. I'm in the basement level of the dorm. And, he's saying goodbye or whatever. And then immediately, I'm just bummed out. I just crash right into bed. And it wasn't maybe 5 or 10 minutes later that the fire alarm goes off in the dorm.
And this is a problem at our school.
Yeah.
It's a 5-story old building, no elevator. I mean, it houses a few thousand students, and y'all got to leave and whatever. So, like, they had meetings, and they sent out announcements. If anybody pulls a fire alarm, $500, like expulsion, we're kicking you out of the school, all these things. So, it's awesome.
So, I have a tradition that I do every time there's a fire alarm, and that is I get into nothing but my Power Ranger underwear. And so I get into these little tiny Power Ranger underwear, and it's a good time. I'm prancing around outside. People are chasing me with towels. You call it whatever it is, all right? I don't know, homoerotic, whatever. I liked it. It was fun. So I'm doing all that, and they're like, all right, everybody come back inside. And I am having the best little time of my life. And this particular, let's just call him Joey, because that's his actual name.
Yeah, let's just call him his name.
Yeah.
Joey K.
Like,
Joey K.
Joey K's like, I know it was you, Bar. We got you, dead to rights. You're in trouble, buddy.
Who talks like that? That's a thing that's stupid. He did.
Yeah.
But, like, why would anybody talk like this to... I don't get it, man. This guy was awful.
Do you know the principal, for those who watch South Park? The PC principal? That's
oh, my
guy.
gosh.
Yeah.
Except more of a douchebag.
More of a douchebag, and, like, he's not PC. But he's like, dead to rights, gotcha. And I'm like, at this point in time, I just think that I'm, that they don't have the evidence, that something's wrong. So I definitely did not do this. And I'm losing my mind. And he's like, we've got you. You're the last person logged in here. So it could have been nobody else but you. And so then I start, a little known fact about me is when I get so upset, when I get really, really mad, I'm one of those people who kind of starts crying as they're mad. It's embarrassing. It's true about me. And so I'm like yelling at this guy with tears in my eyes. I'm like, I'd never do that. You don't know what you're talking about. Okay. And then he's like, well, because I told my dad dropped me off, and he's like, well, then it had to be your dad. And then I lose my ish harder than before. I'm like, my dad's a 45-year-old man who served in the military, sir. He'd never do anything like that. Okay. Now, I go downstairs, and they're threatening me with $500 fine, going before the board to get, in trouble. Call my mom. My mom's like, oh my God, this is terrible. Oh, da, da, da. And my dad's in the back, and he doesn't answer or respond. So then, what do? I'm a little bit of a radical person at this part in my life. I start making signs that say Joey K is a loose cannon. And I start holding those up, different various parts of the campus, mostly at lunch. And people think that's hilarious. And I was doing it mostly for the funny response.
Yeah, in this story, by this point, it was a relatively small college, a little over 2,000 students. But
yeah,
everybody's talking about how this douchebag RD is accusing a military decorated person of pulling the fire alarm.
So then some things start to come to light. And the first is that the guy who managed the first floor, all right, what's the name? Not RD. What's the
RA.
RA. The RA is like, yeah, that was a crazy day. I don't know if you did it or not, but all I heard was the walls shaking. Like somebody was just pounding and pounding. And I'm like putting two to two together, but not really. Like it didn't hit me still. And then I went home and I realized in the middle of a conversation, I was like, but Dad, did you pull the fire alarm? And he's like, yeah, I pulled it. And I'm like, wait, why? He's like, well, what happened was I got stuck between two doors. You have to have a fob to get out. And he's like, and I just kind of went all military mode and kind of freaked out. And I pulled the fire alarm and I peeled off in the car, which he claims is a truck. By the way, it wasn't, Dad. It was a 1995 Safari van, okay? You might think that you drove off in a Corvette and, you're looking cool in the distance. No, you were in a van. There were car seats in that van as you were peeling off. So I'm going back and I start telling everybody this news and everybody's just losing their ish. And so moral of the story is that don't trust your dad. I don't know.
Don't trust your dad. Well, the best part about it is you really believed he was innocent.
Oh, I did.
In front of the tribunal, and you're professing his innocence and yours, and this is total BS. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, I totally pulled it. And we were having beers one time with your dad, who's awesome, by the way. And he's like, fuck it, man. I don't know. I got stuck in there. I was going to get out. Just pull the fucking fire alarm. Retired military
to inconvenience hundreds of people.
He didn't give a shit.
At 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah. I just pulled the alarm.
Let's pull the alarm. That's, you know what? These stupid kids. Get them outside. And then there's me in my Power Ranger underwear. And mind you, I'm arguing with the RD in my Power Ranger underwear.
Power move right there.
Power move. It was cold. All right. That was just a good, fun college story. So 10 minutes, who cares?
Yeah, who cares?
Let's get into it. John and I aren't going to do our rookie rankings this week, but they're coming soon. But what we want to do is kind of just check in on these guys, see how some of these position groups are performing from our rookie class. So, John, I think we should start with the QBs.
Yeah, the NFL draft, the 2018 NFL draft started off with QBs, and we ended up having 3 QBs go in the first 7 and 4 in the top 10. So let's check in with them and see how they are doing. Right off the bat, man, they're all playing, besides Lamar Jackson, who went with the last pick in the first round. But the top 4 were playing. Josh Allen, who has played terrible. Yeah. He was leading the NFL in sacks, and he still is, even though he hasn't played the last 2 weeks. He's not going to play this week either. He is by far and away. He shouldn't have gone in the first round anyway, but just because of what he has flashed, I think that, a second-round pick would have been warranted. He definitely should have gone that early. But if I was ranking these 2018 rookie quarterbacks in order, it would go Baker Mayfield. He should have went first overall. I would take him first overall again. Then Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen. I actually, as time goes on, I'm liking Rosen much more than Darnold. But these 3 guys, if the draft was to start over today, should go 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Saquon has been unreal, and he is amazing. But we are seeing what Odell and Evan Ingram and Sterling Shepard and Saquon Barkley can do with Eli Manning, and it's not much. You got to go QB. It's the most important position by far. It's not even close. And not to say that these guys are already at a productive NFL spot. None of them have over a 58% completion percentage. The best touchdown to interception ratio is 8-6 with Baker Mayfield. But we see it. We have seen flashes. And Josh Rosen's deep ball, second to none, man. That guy, he's special.
And I would say, too, you look at the impact that you go back to Saquon. It's easy, to say, they should have passed. And Saquon is definitely just a generational running back, but that team may be struggling for a while. I've heard that the QB class of next year is not so strong. What say you?
No, it's not. I usually wait to start breaking down a draft film kind of January, but thanks to my 49ers being the 49ers, I've already started, man. And so early on, this is going to be a very defensive-heavy draft. Nick Bosa, he's number 1 overall. Nick Bosa is the real deal. I'm about 6 game films in, and since he has already left Ohio State to focus on the draft, he's not going to have any more film put out, so I'm going to be finishing up my evaluation on him relatively soon. He's for real. He's insane.
Does he play like his brother, or is he different?
He has more bend and flexibility than his brother, but less of a motor. But his talent level is higher than his brother's. He is unreal. As far as just a pure pass rushing specialist, which is what he is, it's uncanny. He's number 1 overall. He will be the first pick in the NFL draft.
See, don't get John talking about the draft. This whole episode will just turn into next year's draft.
I have to focus, otherwise I can't sleep at night because this year's over. So it's Nick Mullins is going to be starting for the 49ers on Thursday probably. Do you understand? Nick Mullins.
I know. Stay focused, man. Honestly, just keep your head in the game, do yoga. It's going to be all right.
All right.
So let's get to it. Let's get to these running backs because, let's be honest, it's fun. Rookie running backs, it's a fun time.
Yeah, and man, it's interesting because we had some major hits and misses just in the first round alone. Obviously Saquon Barkley, he needs to go early. I have no problem with him going in the top 10, but I did a complete remock of the first round 2 weeks ago, and I had him falling quite a ways. And that's the idea. What do you do with a rookie running back when you have so many other problems? It just gets problematic, and especially whenever you can fill a major need in other areas. I personally, I would have taken him probably 12 to 13. I think Tampa Bay would have been in a perfect spot for him, and I understand that he's amazing, but you're picking in the top 10 for a reason. Saquon is unreal, and we need to recognize what this guy is. Very, very special. He's averaging 4.7 yards per carry, and the catches are just insane. But having said all those things, other rookie running backs are playing lights out as well. Phillip Lindsay, undrafted free agent. He's got better rushing stats than Saquon, which isn't fair because they're on different offenses, and Saquon's going against almost a loaded box every single play. But you got an undrafted free agent like Phillip Lindsay averaging 5.7 yards per attempt, a full yard more. Nick Chubb, 6.1 yards per attempt. Kerryon Johnson, 6.1 yards per attempt. And even your boy Josh Adams, man, where'd that come from last week?
I mean, it took him a while to get used to it. Honestly, last week was such a big deal against the Jaguars, who are a great defense. He ran unafraid. He ran with some ball security, although he almost did have a fumble. I thought he got lucky on the challenge. There was one where his left buttocks cheek had just touched the ground, and they're like, oh, he touched. I'm like, I guess. I wouldn't have been surprised if the ball would have went the other way. But other than that, man, he's running to make contact, loving it.
Yeah, and so again, if we're talking about redrafting or re-ranking this position for the draft, knowing what we know now, Saquon's still number 1. Kerryon Johnson would be number 2. Sony Michel I got at 3. Then you're looking kind of Nick Chubb. He hasn't done it as much. He's only had 50 carries. So it's relatively new with him, but there's so much production from this rookie running back class. And then we look at the bad side. I hate... Let me rephrase this. I don't hate being right. I don't root against players. But whenever you see somebody that just lacks effort and doesn't care and they're not willing to put in the work like Rashad Penny, and then he does as bad as he has been doing, he didn't get one offensive snap this last week. He only got 2 offensive snaps 3 weeks ago. They are already moving on from this first-round pick, Rashad Penny. He is awful. Refuses to pass protect, which we saw on film, has gained way too much weight, is out of shape. Just terrible. And then Ronald Jones in the second round, he's just as bad. This coaching staff is about to be fired, and they're just like, yeah, we're done with this kid already. So there's some good and bads. That's the thing. Wait on running back in the draft because there's freaking rookie free agents. Literally has the number 1 overall grade for PFF, Pro Football Focus right now, over Saquon Barkley. Now, I'm not taking Phillip Lindsay over Saquon, but he's very, very productive. So
yeah. Let's move on to wide receiver. Maybe start out, not go in order, but I definitely have loved to see the progression of Anthony Miller. He looks to really kind of be coming on.
That guy's for real, and he just needs a chance, right? And that's kind of the thing. So whenever quarterbacks target him, he's got a couple drops and 1 interception. He's got 2 drops and 1 interception, but his highlight reel is second to none. He makes amazing circuits catches, and he struggled a little bit just being unhealthy, like dislocated his shoulder. But he's back at it, and so we'll see. He was more productive than Allen Robinson has been. Allen Robinson's been a terrible so far this year. Yeah. And with him out last week, Anthony Miller looked great. They are building something there in Chicago. You have been right about them since the start. I don't like Trubisky, but this offense, whew.
Yeah, I can't take all the credit because I don't know if they would be where they are. The Khalil Mack trade absolutely changed the game for them. Just keep them healthy, Bears, and then you'll be on the right path. Stop putting them in when you don't put in a guy who's pretty banged up and then be like, go back out there. Let him rest. He'll change the game for you. So let's talk about some of these names out there. Cortland Sutton, some of these guys who are top fivers.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton's definitely got to be on that. And with news today of Demaryius Thomas being traded to the Texans for a 4th-round pick, it is Cortland Sutton time. He has been playing lights out, but his job has been just go get the deep ball. He's the 3rd wide receiver out there with Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas up until now, and they would just send him deep. And so he's only getting like 3 or 4 targets a game, but they're all over 20 yards, and he's making just some unreal catches. That's going to change now. This kid... He's special. He already looks the part. He is going to be a wide receiver 2 moving forward this entire season, I believe. A low-end wide receiver 2 in fantasy. Cortland Sutton, we're going to look back and say, how the hell did this kid fall out of the first round? He was my number one rated wide receiver to start with. If I was redrafting at this point now, I don't know. I feel like I got to put Calvin Ridley ahead of him. You know, 6 touchdowns, impressive. He's proven he could do it. Very wide receiver friendly offense. But man, I have no problem taking Cortland Sutton or Christian Kirk. Those three have stood out they're not even close to anybody close to Ridley, Cortland Sutton, and Christian Kirk. Those guys look legit.
There's a kid too, undrafted free agent out of Green Bay who's been pretty nice too.
Yeah, there's a couple guys that they got over there. I mean, Marcus Valdez-Scantling, he was drafted, and that kid just looks, man, he looks good.
Yeah.
I really, really like him. I think Randall Cobb moves on this season, and Scantling is going to be the slot receiver of the future in Green Bay. There's just a lot there. Now, on the flip side, these wide receivers that perhaps aren't doing as well, James Washington, actually, he's playing very, very bad. He's got a few drops, not getting a lot of playing time. Michael Gallup, I think he's making strides, but that offense, man, ugh. You think adding Amari Cooper, somebody else that drops the ball, is going to help. I don't think it will. Callaway's been bad.
He's put up decent numbers, though. Callaway has been a garbage time fella for fantasy. But yeah, his play has been inconsistent.
Yeah, he's got a 48% catch rate. That's about as bad as it gets. He's just not catching the ball. I think he had like 10 targets the other day, and he had 2 catches for like 8 yards. So he's got to find a way to be a little more productive, and that's kind of the thing. The head coach is fired, offensive coordinator's fired. Now you got Freddie Kitchens, the running back coach, taking over an offense with a rookie everything. Oh. It's not going to get better in Cleveland, but I do think they needed to move on.
And they have the worst head coach in all of football now. I mean, if you thought Hugh was bad, I'm not saying in terms of production, but the guy's a piece of shit, dude. Like, I don't know else another way to say it. He's the worst. I wish he wasn't in football. Can I make myself any more clear?
I love it, man. And that's the thing with Hard Knocks. You go back and watch these things, and it's like you learn pretty quick who these people are. The one saving grace I have for Kitchens is this. He was the quarterback's coach for Bruce Arians whenever he was in Arizona. And if he can replicate that type of system, who knows, man? I love Bruce Arians' system as an offensive coordinator. He is amazing. So if he can find a way, and we've got 2 of those that we got going on now with Byron Leftwich in Arizona, and now Kitchens. So we'll see. Both of them got rookie quarterbacks and struggling offenses. I would take Cleveland's skill position over Arizona's any day, but it's what it is.
Let's go to a weird category here. How about tight end? Dallas Goedert. Goedert. You know, with the opportunities he's had, he's built. We've definitely seen him in the last 2 weeks step up. Doug Peterson came out and said, we got to get this guy the ball. I mean, what are we doing here? And that's what they've done. He is now a matchup problem. The issue is for him is the route running, is just some of the football intelligence. I also think, too, it's not that he's running scared. I think he's still trying to get a feel for his body in this game. Like, how much can he endure? Like, I see him catch the ball, and like a Zach Ertz would just immediately do a spin, out of like a 5-yard stop. Like, he pauses, kind of waits for the hit, and then turns. But he's kind of been getting a little bit more secure as time's been going on. And so I like him for the long term, but I don't know if he's been the best tight end in the league. What do you think?
Oh, as far as the rookies go, it's not close. Yeah, Dallas Goedert, he's ahead in everything. He's got an 85% catch rate, which is just impressive. 3 touchdowns. He would be the number 2 wide receiver in this class as far as receiving yards go, touchdowns-wise. He's been great. And his blocking grade's pretty decent as well. He's really, really not bad. He doesn't have a lot of snaps at that, but he's just solid across the board. If you're going to move on past that, you're talking about Will Dissly or Mark Andrews, and Chris Herndon's turning it on lately. He just fumbles the ball too much. But There's not much. It's Dallas Goedert or bust. Mike Gesicki was the first round taken, and he has looked abysmal. From training camp on, they have said he has struggled, he has struggled, he has struggled. He is an athletic person in a big person's body. That is not a natural tight end, and he's just not doing much. I don't know how else to say this, but he's just a big wide receiver. He is not necessarily a tight end.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and move into the O-line. Just talk about some guys who've stood out or some who've disappointed.
Yeah, so the O-line is interesting because here's the deal. Let's be real honest. It's not. We thought it was a strong class, but it turns out maybe not. If there's one guy that is cut above everybody else, that's Mike McGlinchey. Holy freaking cow. The 49ers got him with the 9th pick, and it's funny because this was the coin flip between Oakland and the 49ers. The 49ers won it, so they got to pick 9th. Oakland got to pick 10th, and we found out after the draft was over, Oakland wanted Mike McGlinchey as well. And so when the 49ers took him, Oakland trades back, and eventually they take the UCLA guy, Colton Miller. And you could not have a bigger difference between these two. Out of, let's see here, how many players we got ranked? About 23 players that have taken susceptible snaps. You have Mike McGlinchey's first overall, and Colton Miller is 5th from the bottom. He has been just awful. He's given up 7 sacks. Colton Miller has. He's been terrible. But Mike McGlinchey, he might be the best right tackle in all of football already right now. He is playing so well. He's unreal, man. Run blocking, pass blocking. That guy should have been a top 5 pick this year. Braden Smith, another tackle out of Auburn for Indianapolis. He's playing amazing football. And so they got him at tackle. And if you've watched the last 3 games of Andrew Luck and these Colts, he's healthy. Like, he's not getting touched. He's back there and just picking people apart. Very, very efficient. They're getting movement in the run game, and a lot of that has to do with Braden Smith. The kind of locked in, everybody was going to say is the best, offensive lineman to come out in whatever time and all this. It's actually not. We all loved Quentin Nelson, and he's played well. He's the 4th highest rated guy. But Will Hernandez has passed him, and it's not close. Will Hernandez for the Giants, they got him in the 2nd round, has been great. He gave up a couple sacks the last game, but a lot of those are kind of Eli just holding on to the ball forever. Will Hernandez has been awesome. So there's some talent. There are some misses with Colton Miller, Austin Corbett, who is one of the first picks in the 2nd round. But a lot of the offensive guys haven't got a lot of snaps. It's very interesting this year, but it's what it is. Mike McGlinchey, for real, though.
I think O-line is one of the rare positions that, even if they do struggle their rookie year, even potentially their sophomore year, the developmental part of the game for O-line, it's a little bit more long-term. I've watched Andy Reid over the years develop guys back when he was with the Eagles, so maybe not all hope is lost for some of the guys that you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, O-line's one of the toughest to transition into, especially based on the scheme that you had in college. If it's a true spread and you're going into kind of a vertical, downfield power game, it just changes things. So,
what about if we save the defense for next week and let's get into these games?
Let's do it.
Let's start with the Raiders, the abysmal embarrassment of a team. Raiders versus the 49ers, who are struggling. These guys have 2 wins between them. Sorry, John. Tell me about what's about to go down in California.
It's one, whenever these 2 teams play, it's fun. This will be the last time that they play whenever they're 20 minutes, away from each other. So that's going to be the big change. This might be the last true California battle, and it's going to be the fighting Nick Mullins. CJ Beathard is hurt. He hurt his throwing hand. He hit it on a helmet in the 4th quarter, and so this is the thing about Thursday Night Football. Kyle Shanahan came out today and said, if the game was on Sunday like normal time, I think he'd be able to start, but he can't grip the ball right now, so we're thinking he's going to be out, in which case it's going to be Nick Mullins and Tom Savage. Gosh, if that doesn't make you want to throw up.
Wow.
For the 49ers, and they're playing for the first overall pick. We talked about how significant it was last year whenever they tied and had to do the coin flip for the 9th overall position. But we will find out in the next 2 weeks who is first overall, because there's 3 teams in the NFL with only 1 win. Oakland, San Francisco, and the Giants. And the 49ers get them back-to-back. So they got Oakland this week, and then Monday Night Football next week is the New York Giants and the 49ers.
Wow.
But anyway, having said that, I'm picking the 49ers, man. I really am. I think that I don't believe in Oakland's defense. The 49ers defense is decent. They just give up too many points, but yard-wise, they're okay. I'm going 49ers here. They're favored in this. They're at home. Maybe Nick Mullins can do something special. Maybe.
Seems like you guys are a little banged up, though, yeah?
It's not close, man. It is not close. We are the most injury-riddled team in the NFL. If you just look at our offense, we have more injuries on offense to our starters than every other team in the NFL. It happens to a team every year. It's just us.
And some teams like the Eagles just win Super Bowls after stuff like that. But anyways.
Oh, you want to go through and talk about stuff like that?
No.
Nick Foles is your number 2 quarterback. Who is your number 3? Nate Sudfeld? That's where we're at. We're at Nate Sudfeld.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry about that. Let's move on from that sadness, though. Alrighty. Next up is the Bears at the Bills. No, sorry. It's at Chicago.
Nope.
No. Sorry. It's at the Bills. Here's the deal. I kind of say this throughout some of the podcasts that we do, that there are some games that are pretty defining. I think this is a defining game for the Bears. Are they the Bears who kind of start hot and then they have some screw-up games? Is Mitch Trubisky going to show he can be consistent? This is that game. The Bills are, I don't know, they're an odd team. They just played New England pretty close.
Their defense is lights out, man. It's unreal. Now, I will say this. Tremaine Edmonds, their huge rookie linebacker in the middle, is out with a concussion. I doubt he will play this week, which is huge. And on top of that, let's stay with the terrible quarterbacks. Derek Anderson is out with a concussion. So Derek Anderson and Josh Allen are out, which leaves Nathan Peterman. And guess who flew in for a workout today with the Buffalo? None other. He played for both of our teams, actually. Do you know who this is?
Who? No.
Who played for the Eagles and 49ers? He's kind of a big name, relatively. Drafted in the 3rd round, I believe.
John Kitna.
Close. Matt Barkley. Wow. You're talking about Nathan Peterman and Matt Barkley against the Chicago defense. I don't care how good Buffalo's defense is. This game, I'm not picking them to win. I don't care if they're home. I'm taking Chicago here big time.
Do you remember when Chip Kelly, though, did get Barkley? He had like a few decent games. With the Eagles.
Yeah, he's efficient.
He's efficient. That's the worst compliment to give anybody. All
That's
right.
like, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah. Next up is the Bucs at the Panthers. This is a team. You got the Panthers, man. Like, let's not play around. This team's rolling. This team just beat the Eagles 2 weeks ago. Who'd they smoke this last week? The Ravens, who are no slouch at all. This team's playing. So I like Carolina in this game. The Bucs are the Bucs. They've kind of, come back to earth a little bit about who they are. Fitzmagic, yeah, but he's facing the Panthers defense. I'm taking the Bucs or the Panthers here.
Yeah, Panthers as well. You can't bet on teams with terrible defenses, and I get it. Fitzpatrick could be Fitzpatrick and just go nuts and throw for 5 touchdowns and rush for 2 more. Or he could throw 4 interceptions. This team, Carolina, has seen him several times. I am going with Carolina big time here. 5-2. Carolina just keeps they're playing great football right now.
Yeah. Next up is the Chiefs at the Browns. This game might get ugly, like really ugly. I tell you what, last week when Kareem Hunt hurdled over that defender, he's the hardest runner in the NFL, and it ain't close.
I think you're right, man. That kid, he's playing unreal right now. He's playing nuts.
And the weapons around there, I mean, that offense is making Sammy Watkins look good. And I know I'm going to get flack from that from you or from somebody, but you know what? every time I watch this guy catch a ball, it's like you see his stat line, and you're like, oh, he's amazing. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing a lot of contested catches. I'm seeing an offensive scheme that's just putting people in space.
Yep.
And it looks easy. I just don't even know. You try to run man on them, they've got too much speed. They're going to run crossers on you. They're going to throw screens. They're going to do all kinds of crap you can't keep up with. And then the second you blink, they've got the league's strongest, most accurate arm going to the fastest cheetah in the league. You can't play around with this offense. And right when you think that their defense is too weak to compete with the big guys, they get some defensive pressure. So I like the Chiefs in this, by a lot.
Yeah, they're the biggest spread of the week. 8.5-point favorites on the road. That's pretty unheard of. Kansas City's this is gonna be bad, man. This is gonna be bad.
Michael Jackson bad. Next up is a divisional game that probably a lot of us don't care about. The Jets and the Dolphins. I like watching Sam Darnold. I like watching this offense, or I like watching the progression of him. Like you said, I definitely favor Rosen over him. I think that Rosen has a lot less offensive line pieces where he's facing consistent pressure all day long, where Sam Darnold is getting some protection and he's got some weapons. So I'm definitely favoring the Jets here. I actually like their defense. It doesn't always show up, but sometimes it can be dominating. I know the Dolphins have put together some good games, but I'm taking the Jets here.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. As far as betting goes and the lines, Miami's the weirdest team in the NFL. You don't know what the hell you're going to get out of them in a half, right? We see them jump out to a 17-0 lead at halftime and then blow it and lose by 10 the same game. You don't know what you're going to get with Miami. I'm picking the Jets here just because they are safe and sound. Miami will lose the game on their own with Brock Osweiler. You can believe in that all you want. No. This game will not be taking place in October, therefore Brocktober is done.
Brocktober is over. All right. Next up, you got a battle for first place. You got the Ravens, who weirdly, this is a weird stat and a very obvious stat. They're 4-4. It doesn't feel like the Ravens are 4-4.
No, because they lose to the worst teams and they beat the best teams.
Yeah.
Like they've lost to the Browns. They've lost to the Browns and been blown out to the Panthers. Like that's not okay. We don't know what the hell to do with this team. I don't know, man.
Well, I definitely think that James Conner's going to get slowed down to a degree in this game. By the way, been hearing all this rumbling in the past few weeks about Le'Veon Bell. Well, the trade deadline passed. Le'Veon Bell showing up soon. He's got to, because of the contract situation.
Yep.
But does he play, and how much?
He has to. So if he does not report and sign his tender by November 13th, he is not allowed to play at all this season. Now, that's important for a few reasons. One, he has to play in 5 games to get an accrued season according to the NFL's definition. If you do not get an accrued season, then it doesn't count as living up to your contract, and he will be a restricted free agent in 2019, meaning that Pittsburgh will still control his rights next year, and he will forfeit the entirety of his franchise thing, which is like $900,000 per game, which he's already missed. So if he doesn't show up by November 13th, he can't play this year, and then this whole thing starts over next year. The exact same situation will play out again. So he has to show up in the next 2 weeks. That's all there is to it.
I'm taking the Ravens in this one. Because why? Like you said earlier, they show up against the best teams.
Man, who would have guessed the AFC North would be one of the toughest divisions with Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh? And that's it's a tough division, man. Of course, Cleveland's in there when they play everybody close. But no, I'm going Baltimore. I believe in their defense much more than Pittsburgh. I'm going Baltimore.
And I mean, Ty Montgomery, if that didn't put you over the edge, I don't know what will.
They gave up a 7th.
Yikes.
Yeah.
It's the saddest trade in the NFL today. All right, next up, another division game. This one's going to be good. Lions and Vikings. But the Lions, though, they gave up a really key piece to my Eagles. What does it say about an organization in when they give up a piece like this.
It's rough, but you're selling this to your team saying this. We weren't going to resign him, so we're getting a 3rd-round pick for 8 games of our number 3 wide receiver is the way they would sell it, right? Kenny Galladay's the number 1. Look what Marvin Jones just did last week. Played against Marvin Jones in 4 out of 5 fantasy leagues. That's awesome. But that's the way you got to sell it. The writing's been on the wall here. I really do think this was a good trade for Detroit and Philly, win-win type situation, which is kind of what you want to do. So it's what it is, man. They are changing their entire formula on offense. Jim Bob Cooter, the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, he has been an air-it-out guy. Matt Stafford's close to 500 pass attempts each year, league leader almost each year. Not anymore. They are running, and it's all about Kerryon Johnson and this offensive line that is just stellar. They're changing their philosophy, so the need for Tate is not what it used to be.
This next game is probably the game of the week. Falcons at the Redskins. Holler at me about this game.
Man, it's going to be fun, right? Redskins are 5-2. They just traded for HaHa Clinton Dix for a 4th rounder. That was a steal.
Yes.
That was an absolute steal. Now, what do you do with Atlanta? They're 3-4. They're clawing their way up. But, man, Washington might be one of the most complete teams in the NFL as far as offense, defense, run game, strength of their defense, and all those things. And they don't make mistakes. They don't turn the ball over at all. And they just play super safe. And so, because of that, here's the deal. They've only allowed 6 turnovers. Their offense has given up 6 turnovers, and they forced 13. They're top 10 in both those turnover ratios for offense and defense. And then you got Alex Smith, who just check down, handoff. Oh, field goal. Hey, what do you know? We won by 10. Their system works. It works.
So let me just walk you through this about this Washington Redskins. I'm going to pose to you that they have not really played super great against, good competition. There have been a few games, so we'll go through them. Let's see. We've got the Redskins. They beat the Cardinals. That's a pretty good one. 24-6. Great job. They got beat by the Colts. They beat the Packers. I believe this was a game, though. I could be wrong. I think this is the game that Rodgers came out for a little bit. But they beat them well, so it is what it is. But I'm pretty sure that Rodgers was hobbled this game for sure, more so than other weeks. Then they go and they play the Saints and get beat 43-19. They come back the next week and they get one against the Panthers. That's a good quality win. And then they barely get one out against the Cowboys. And then they kind of just barely beat the Giants this week. I'm not impressed. And I think they're a pretender in terms of being a quality team. Now, that's the Eagles fan in me for sure. But this Falcons game is going to mean a lot to me in terms of if they're the real deal. Do you think that they could win the NFC East? Or do you think they might slide?
They're 5-2, man, and their formula seems to be working pretty good. They still have some relatively easy games on the schedule. Tampa Bay, they still got the Cowboys, they still got the Giants, they still got the Jags, they've got the Titans. So there's a lot of winnable games there. They're 5-2, man. They're a full they're a game and a half over you guys. And with the way the records are looking, even if they don't win the division, they've got a good shot at getting in wild card.
Yeah.
So, anytime I doubt out Alex Smith, I'm usually wrong. I think they're going to make it, man.
For sure. And every analyst under the sun, including ourselves, said, stay away from AP in terms of fantasy value. And
I was wrong.
We're wrong.
Wrong.
Next up is Texans at the Broncos. Instant revenge game. Demarius is like, hey, guys.
I didn't have to leave.
I didn't have to leave. Just want to see you guys.
There is no way in hell I would pick against the Houston Texans right now. I don't really care who they're playing against. There are a few teams, obviously, I'd pick against them, but not against Denver. They're the next Cleveland. I could see them firing their coach anytime soon. And, man, again, look at what Houston, they've won 5 straight. 5 straight. I'm picking Houston big time here.
So we were right about our pick about Seattle going into the Detroit last week and getting that win. But I don't know about this week. We got Chargers and Seahawks. I'm taking the Chargers.
Yeah.
What about you?
Chargers as well. It's funny. The Vegas line gives Seattle 1.5, which usually you get 3 at home. But the Chargers, 1, coming off of a bye week. 2, they're playing some solid football, man. They are special. They are a very quiet 5-2, probably the quietest 5-2 team in the league because they don't even have a fan base. I live in LA, and you don't even know anything about them.
Wow,
it's sad. It's kind of sad, actually. No, I'm picking the Chargers here completely. They're rested, which is what they needed with Melvin Gordon. You remember he was out their game in London, but he's going to be back in it, and this Seattle defense is awful. Now, Russell Wilson, he turned it on the last 2 weeks, and he's playing insane football. I do not expect that to continue against this great Chargers defense.
No. I think that pass rush gets there, and this is just a bad matchup for this team. Next up is the real game of the week. Let's be honest. Rams, I believe, is it at the Saints?
Yeah, it's in New Orleans.
Okay. This is fun. This is a playoff game. This is a playoff game.
This is home field. This is first versus second seed. This is all those things.
Yes, we're playing for the bye. This is what I guarantee you the coaches are preaching to these teams. This game means everything. So these teams are going to come in with some juice. Boy, this is going to be fun. And here's why. And I like this. Let me just say I like the Saints in this matchup, and I'll talk kind of about why. The Saints have so much versatility to their offense. Maybe they're not as explosive as the Rams, but they have a lot of versatility. You've got a Mark Ingram who can do damage. Gaps A, B, C, not really D. But in those gaps, boy, they run a wham on you or they run something quick, trouble. That's a 30-yard gash. He's got no problem meeting you in the middle. Then you've got Kamara, who's not afraid of contact either and is one of the best edge running backs right now that there is, can catch out of the backfield beautifully. And then you've got Michael Thomas right now seemingly within the prime of his career. And you've got Drew Brees, who that arm started out a bit shaky weeks 1 and 2. I almost thought, maybe even week 3, I thought for a second, oh no, this is kind of the end for him. And then he just started turning it on. So I like the Saints. Their defense has kind of started to show up a little bit more. I saw a rattled Jared Goff this week. I thought that was kind of interesting. He looked frustrated. He looked to kind of question himself with some throws, given that they hand the ball off to Todd Gurley and all your problems go away. But I started to question him a little bit this week. And also, that outside edge rush might have been fixed by the Dante Fowler trade.
Yeah, that was the only weakness on really the whole team, was their outside pass rush. Obviously, they're 2 stud defensive tackles, but there's been no outside pressure. And Fowler, he can get after the quarterback now. He can't do anything else, but...
Yeah, I don't know, though. I thought that trade maybe is going to be a little bit overblown because he can get after the quarterback okay. He's not... I don't think he's a B-plus pass rusher. I think he's more of the B-minus
He's better than
rusher.
Anything they have. It is an improvement, but it's not like you're adding a Pro Bowl player. I get that he made the Pro Bowl his second season when he had like 13 sacks, but that's a long time away. And I'll say this too, they've already traded away their second and third round pick. They are in a win now mode, and you got to understand why. They're freaking 8-0. I'm picking the Rams here. I do think they are the most complete team, but I think you're right. This could go either way. And listen to this slate that the Rams played through. Aaron Rodgers, then at Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, then Patrick Mahomes. That's their 4-week schedule. That's a tough schedule, man.
What a game. I can't wait for that Chiefs-Rams game. I'll say that Fowler's also suspect in the run, so we'll see. I'm going to stick with the Saints and imagine the narrative about this team if they beat the Vikings last week and then they come and they beat the Rams this week.
They're for real.
Woo!
They are for real.
And they were my Super Bowl pick at the beginning of the year, so I want the Philly to win, obviously.
I said Minnesota and Chargers is what I said, right?
Yes,
that sounds
I believe
right.
so. I don't know who I picked in the AFC. I'll have to go back and listen. Packers at Patriots. It's looking like the Patriots are starting to pick it up a little bit. They did not get the wide receiver that they were aiming for in the trade, according to reports. And the Packers, they lost Ty Montgomery, so probably season's over. Kidding.
The shade is immense.
It's immense. Is this a game where Aaron Rodgers just sort of picks apart New England's defense?
I hope so. I really think Green Bay's going to win this game. And I think it comes down to Sony Michel, of all things. We saw New England just last night, the Monday night game. They were trying to run the ball in the red zone, and they could not do it without Sony Michel. They tried using Cordarrelle Patterson. That didn't work. Kenyon Barner, that didn't work. James White, that didn't work. He could throw it out of the backfield all day to James White, but once you get in the red zone, it changes. And their offense, it does not work well. You saw how many field goals they settled for. So if Sony Michel is healthy, he's going to persuade me whichever way he is. He's that good. If he plays, I'm picking New England. If he is out, I'm going Green Bay.
Yeah. The Titans-Cowboys game features on Monday night, and to me the Titans and the Cowboys are like if there were, let's say there were 10 kids in a family and they were number 5 and number 6 and nobody cared about them and they were middle children and their parents didn't even send them to school because they wanted to save money. That's who they are.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Is that agree? Yeah, you like that analogy?
Yeah, it just kept going.
Oh, I could keep going to a way darker place, but I'm going to save our podcast. So that's kind of what I feel. These are two guys who are just fighting for, I don't know what, who's the best middle child. Mommy loves me more. She forgot your name. So I think that these guys' narrative really match up pretty well. You've got two quarterbacks who've been in the league, Mariota, one more year than Dak, I believe. And they're underperforming. They're not living up to expectations. They've got other players around them that are not living up to expectations. They have great offensive lines. They have, used to have feature backs. Sorry, Derrick Henry. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And they've got defenses that can kind of play pretty well. So they match and mirror each other very well. I like the Cowboys here. I like the way the Cowboys defense is playing. I believe in Dak a little bit more than other people do. I think he may have the ability to evolve. And I think that we kind of have like a really a finite kind of like process where we just look at a player and we say, that's who they are. That's even though they've been in the league just this long, that's it. They're done. I don't know. Sometimes Dak, I catch him looking for a third or fourth read and I'm like, there you are.
Yeah.
Like, do that. And then other times he's looking at one read or two read and he's going to go. I feel like if he could just discipline himself a little bit more and say, I'm going to be a pocket QB, the Cowboys could be something serious because they have some talent around them. But I don't know, something's just not clicking for Dak right now. And weirdly, as an Eagles fan, kind of pulling for him, and it's a strange thing.
It is weird. I like Dak a lot too. And I think, the trade for Amari Cooper, whatever, you gave a first, which was way too much. You're adding in one of the highest dropped rate wide receivers in the NFL outside of Dez. So you went and got basically a Dez clone. He's not as physical as Dez, but the speed's there and whatever else. I think Dallas wins this game. I do not believe in Tennessee. This is going to be the ugliest game of the week. It's one of the lowest point totals predicted by Vegas. It's going to be one of those kind of 20-16 games, and it's going to be boring. They both want the game to be boring because it's just how their offensive scheme is. So these two teams in Buffalo are just almost impossible to watch just because they want the clock. They want to shrink the game and whatever else. So I'm going Dallas here, but I don't like either of these two teams.
All right, man. We got some great games this week. We're going to catch you guys on the flip side. This has been NFL Express. Choo-choo!